The house stood alone, at the edge of town, hidden, forgotten. Locals told stories, whispers of tragedy. A family vanished years ago. No explanation, just emptiness and silence. Some say their souls are trapped inside, unable to leave, seeking solace in the living. The house remained a constant reminder of the unknown and the terrifying. Four friends, Jake, Emily, Ben and Chloe, teenagers seeking thrills. Heard the stories, dismissed them? Just silly myths, they thought. One night a dare was made, spend an hour inside the house. Foolish and naive, they approached. The house loomed large and imposing. A shiver ran down their spines, but they continued, their bravery fueled by fear. The steps creaked, a loud groan as they climbed, the front door half off its hinges. A gaping maw inviting them in. The air grew cold. A strange smell, musty and old, hung in the air. Jake pushed the door. Slowly it opened with a deafening screech. They stepped inside. The darkness enveloped them, their hearts pounded in their chests. The air inside heavy and oppressive. Dust particles danced in the faint moonlight. The floorboards groaned under their weight. They moved cautiously further into the house. Each step they took echoed through the silence. A grandfather clock stood at the top of the grand staircase, its hands frozen at 3 a.m. The same time the family vanished, the story went. Section 5. Whispers in the dark. They reached the top of the stairs, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. A long, seemingly endless hallway stretched before them, shrouded in darkness. The walls were lined with portraits of the family, their faces frozen in time. The eyes in the paintings seemed to follow the friends with an unsettling intensity as they walked by, making them feel as if they were being watched. A cold draught swept down the hall, causing them to shiver involuntarily. Whispers echoed from the rooms on either side, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. These ghostly sounds sent chills down their spines, making the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. The friends huddled closer together, their fear growing with each passing moment. The air was thick with tension, and every creak of the floorboards beneath their feet seemed to amplify their anxiety. They could feel the weight of the house's history pressing down on them, a palpable sense of dread that made it hard to breathe. As they moved further down the hallway, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if trying to communicate some dark secret. The friends exchanged nervous glances, their eyes wide with fear. They knew they had to keep moving, but each step felt like a struggle against an invisible force. The portraits seemed to come alive in the flickering candlelight, their expressions shifting ever so slightly, adding to the sense of unease. The friends could feel their hearts pounding in their chests, the sound almost deafening in the oppressive silence. They tried to reassure each other with whispered words of encouragement, but their voices sounded hollow and unconvincing. The hallway seemed to stretch on forever, a never-ending tunnel of darkness and fear. The friends could only hope that they would find a way out before the whispers drove them mad. Section 6. Running for their lives. Suddenly, a crash. The sound reverberated through the dark, empty hallway, sending shivers down their spines. Objects fell, clattering to the ground, creating an eerie symphony of chaos. The dimly lit room seemed to close in on them, the shadows growing longer and more menacing with each passing second. From the end of the hall, a figure emerged. They spun around, their hearts pounding in their chests. Their blood ran cold as they took in the sight before them. A tall, shadowy figure stood there, its presence dominating the corridor. Its eyes glowed a sinister red, piercing through the darkness like twin beacons of malevolence. The friends screamed, their voices echoing off the walls, a cacophony of pure terror. Terror gripped them, freezing them in place for a split second before survival instincts kicked in. They turned and ran, their footsteps echoing loudly in the confined space. Back down the stairs they fled, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. Stumbling and falling in their haste, they could feel the figure's presence looming ever closer. The figure gave chase, its laughter echoing behind them, a chilling sound that seemed to seep into their very bones. As they descended the dark stairwell, the friends could barely see where they were going. The dim light cast eerie shadows on the walls, making every corner a potential hiding place for the sinister figure. They could hear its footsteps, slow and deliberate, a stark contrast to their frantic escape. Each step they took felt like a desperate bid for survival, the fear driving them forward despite their exhaustion. The laughter grew louder, more mocking, as if the figure was toying with them. It seemed to enjoy their fear, feeding off their panic. The friends knew they had to keep moving, had to find a way out of this nightmare. But the darkness was disorienting, and every turn they took seemed to lead them deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the building. Their minds raced, trying to remember the layout of the place, searching for any possible escape route. But the fear clouded their thoughts, making it hard to think clearly. All they knew was that they had to keep running, had to stay ahead of the figure that pursued them with relentless determination. The sound of its laughter echoed in their ears, a haunting reminder of the danger that lurked just behind them. Section 7, The Truth Revealed. They burst out of the house into the night, gasping for breath. Adrenaline surged through their veins. They looked back at the house, its windows dark, silent and still. Had they imagined it? They never spoke of that night again, but the memory lingered, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lurks in the shadows. Section 8. The Unresolved Mystery. Years later, the town had almost forgotten about the eerie events that had transpired in the old house on the hill. The once vibrant community had moved on, but the house remained, a silent sentinel to the horrors of the past. Its broken windows and decaying facade stood as a grim reminder of the unresolved mystery that still lingered in the air. One day, while cleaning out his late grandmother's attic, Jake stumbled upon an old, dusty newspaper. The yellowing pages crinkled under his touch, and a sense of unease washed over him as he realized the date on the front page. It was from the year the family had disappeared. His curiosity piqued. He carefully unfolded the fragile paper. The headline screamed out at him, "Family vanishes without a trace." Below it, an article detailed the mysterious disappearance of the family that had once lived in the haunted house. As Jake read on, he found a photograph of the family. The father, mother, and 2 children smiled back at him, but there was something off about the picture. The father's eyes seemed to bore into Jake's soul. Jake's heart raced as he noticed the father's eyes. They glowed red, just like the figure he had seen in the house years ago. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. The figure that had haunted his nightmares was not a figment of his imagination. It was real, and it was the father from the photograph. The truth was more terrifying than he could have ever imagined. The figure was not a ghost, but something far more sinister. It was a malevolent presence that had taken over the father's body, turning him into a creature of darkness. Jake's mind raced as he tried to piece together the puzzle. The family had not simply disappeared. They had been consumed by the evil that lurked within the house. Jake realized that the nightmare was far from over. The house still stood, waiting for its next victims. The malevolent force within it was still hungry, still searching for souls to devour. As he stood there holding the old newspaper, Jake knew that he had to do something. He couldn't let the house claim any more lives. The unresolved mystery had to be solved, and the evil within the house had to be vanquished once and for all.